Hello everyone and welcome to Serendipity in Quarantine. Today we are going to see what are writs, DPSPs and fundamental duties. So before watching this video, I will recommend you to watch the democratic rights video because in that we have discussed fundamental rights in detail. So the link of that video will be given in the description as well as at the end of this video. So let's begin. So under fundamental rights, we saw one right called right to constitutional remedies. So this right gave right to citizen to approach High Court or Supreme Court to get any fundamental right restored in case they are violation. So Dr. Ambedkar, who was the framer of the constitution, called this right as the heart and the soul of the constitution because it ensured that the all fundamental rights should be enforced. So while maintaining this, the Supreme Court and High Court can give some direction or orders to the government for the enforcement of the rights. So there are some special orders which are known as writs. So what are these writs? So there are 5 types of writs. So first one is called habeas corpus. So a writ of habeas corpus means that court orders that arrested person should be presented before it, and it can also order to set free arrested person if the manner in which the arrest was done was not lawful or satisfactory. So this was habeas corpus. It can be enforced against any public or private body and it can be appealed by only the aggrieved person. Then there is mandamus. So this writ is issued when court finds that a particular office holder is not doing his legal duties. So thereby he or she is infringing on the rights of an individual. So this can be stated against only state bodies, not against any private bodies. Then there are prohibition. So this writ is issued by higher courts like High Court or Supreme Court when a lower court has considered case going beyond its jurisdiction. So this can be applied against any judicial or quasi-judicial body but not against any ordinary body. Then there are quo warranto. So if court finds out that the person is holding office but he or she is not entitled to hold that office, then this writ can be issued. So this restrict person from acting as an office holder. So this particular writ can be issued against any public office which can be statutory or constitutional. Then there is certiorari. So this writ or court orders to lower courts or other authority to transfer the matter pending before it to the higher court or the court itself. So this is called as preventive and curative writ as it tries to restore the order and it can be applied against administrative authorities or judicial bodies. So these were the writs. Apart from these judicial measures, there are also some bodies. For example, we saw National Human Rights Commission. Then there is National Commission on Minorities, National Commission on Women, National Commission of SCs and STs, etc. So they also ensure that the rights are enforced and not violated. So let's go ahead. So we are going to see what are DPSP. So Directive Principles of State Policies are some guidelines which are not legally enforceable or non-justiciable. So why constitutional makers gave these guidelines? See, the constitutional maker had a long vision and they thought that in the future maybe government will face various problems. To solve this problem, they thought that we should provide such policy guidelines for the future governments. But at the same time, these makers did not wanted the future governments to be bound by certain policy decisions. Hence, they made some guidelines which were not made legally enforceable. That means if government did not implement the particular guidelines, we cannot go to court to ask to give its direction to government to implement. So these guidelines are non-justiciable, but the constitutional maker gave this moral force, and the force behind it was that guidelines would ensure that government would take them seriously. So these are known as Directive Principles of State Policy. So we can divide them in 2 types. One type is by dividing their actual aim, that is first one is goals and objective that society should adopt. Second one is certain rights that individuals should enjoy apart from fundamental rights, and there are some policies that government should adopt. And at the same time we can divide them on the basis of the ideologies on which they were formed. First one is Gandhian ideology, then social and liberal ideologies. So so here is the chart in which we can see directive principles. So on the basis of goals, there are some societal goals like raising standard of living or equitable distribution of resources, promotion of international peace. Then there are some non-justiciable rights, for example adequate livelihood, then equal pay for equal work for men and women, right to work, and some policy guidelines like uniform civil codes, prohibition of consumption of alcoholic liquor, promotion of cottage industry, etc. So these directive principles can state governments use as the guidelines through which they form the policies. Then there are fundamental duties. So fundamental duties were not originally in the constitution, they were added on 1976 by 42nd amendment of the constitution. So these fundamental duties include 10 duties, and however constitution does not say that these duties are enforceable. So citizen must abide by the constitution, they can defend country, promote harmony among citizens and protect the environment. So the 10 duties are based on these values, but however constitution does not make the enjoyment of rights dependent on the conditional upon the fulfillment of duties. So the fulfillment of duties is not the basic requirements to enjoy the fundamental rights, but it is moral duty of every citizen to fulfill these duties. So now we will be seeing what are the relationship between fundamental rights and directive principles. So usually directive principles can be called as socio-economic democracy's pillar, and fundamental rights are political democracy's pillar. So these are complementary to each other, and fundamental duties can be called as correlative and inseparable from the fundamental rights. DPSPs are supplementary to fundamental rights, but there were some incidences in which there was conflict between fundamental rights and DPSPs. So fundamental rights mainly protect the rights of individual, while directive principles ensure that well-being of entire society. So the question can arise whether the well-being of individual or the welfare of society is greater than one another. So when government intends to implement directive principle of state policy, it can come in conflict with the fundamental right of citizen. So this problem was arose when a government sought to pass law to abolish the zamindari system. So this measure was opposed to the fundamental right to property. So it was getting violated, but at large the societal need was greater than the individual. So this law was passed. So it was violating fundamental right. But later on, this right to property, which included right to acquire, possess and maintain property, was removed from the fundamental right as Supreme Court directed it, and in year of 1978 by 44th amendment of Constitution it was removed and added to simple legal right under Article 30A. So this solved the issue of whether this abolition of zamindari was violating right to property. But again various issues came in which Supreme Court said that these fundamental rights were sacred and no one can violate them, but then implementation of DPSP became difficult. So in the end Supreme Court solved this and settled this controversy in the famous Kesavanand Bharati case. In this case court said that there are certain basic features of the constitution and this cannot be changed by the parliament. So either they want to implement the DPSPs or fundamental rights per some basic features of the constitution which are included in the basic structure of the constitution cannot be changed, means cannot be amended. So in the chapter of constitution as living document we will see in detail what are the procedures to amend the constitution and which part of the constitution can be amended. So if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.